In the bustling city of Mumbai, where the vibrant chaos of humanity dances alongside the glimmering skyscrapers, there lived a taxi driver named Ravi. For over a decade, he had navigated the city's congested streets, ferrying passengers in his modest car. Ravi wasn't just another face in the crowd of drivers. He possessed a quiet dignity and a gentle demeanor that set him apart. People often remarked about his composure, especially during traffic jams or unexpected delays. Ravi remained calm, a stark contrast to the honking cacophony around him. This serenity extended to his interactions with passengers. He never engaged in idle chatter unless prompted, respecting their need for solitude or quiet contemplation. His service was marked by an unspoken understanding. He knew that for many of his passengers, the taxi was not just a mode of transport, but a sanctuary of sorts, a place where they could unwind and shed the masks they wore in the rest of the world. Ravi understood this, and he honored that need. One evening, as dusk painted the sky in hues of orange and purple, Ravi's taxi was cruising along the Marina Drive, a popular coastal road known for its evening breeze and stunning views of the Arabian Sea. Suddenly, his auto rickshaw slowed down, not because of traffic, but because he had spotted something unusual. On a bench outside the Breach Candy Hospital sat a lone woman. She was a striking figure, yet something about her posture, the way she huddled into herself, tugged at his heartstrings. Her shoulders shook slightly, betraying the fact that she was crying. The sight of this woman, lost in her own private storm, prompted Ravi to make a decision. He turned his taxi around and headed towards the hospital. As he approached the woman, he noticed that she was alone, no one around her, and her tears flowed freely. In that moment, he realized that she needed help. "Madam," he called out softly, his voice echoing the concern in his heart. "Are you all right?" The woman, startled, wiping hastily at her face as if to erase the evidence of her tears. "Can I take you somewhere?" he asked, his tone gentle, his eyes filled with kindness. She hesitated for a moment, then slowly nodded, too choked up to speak. Without another word, Ravi helped her into his taxi. The woman, still sobbing softly, settled into the back seat. Ravi didn't start the engine right away. He waited patiently, giving her time to compose herself. He understood that sometimes silence was the best company. When he finally pulled away from the curb, he didn't play the radio. Instead, he kept the car's speakers tuned to the sounds of the city, a soft hum that seemed to blend with the melody of her sadness. The taxi moved past the familiar landmarks of the city. They drove along the coast, the waves crashing against the shore seeming to echo the turmoil within the woman. As they approached the Gateway of India, an iconic monument, the woman's shoulders heaved with fresh sobs. The gateway, usually a symbol of Mumbai's resilience and vibrancy, now loomed over them like a silent sentinel witnessing her grief. Despite her tears, the woman's composure was evident. Even in her distress, she held herself with a dignity that was hard to ignore. Ravi watched her in the rearview mirror, his heart aching for the unseen pain that had brought her to this state. He couldn't erase her sorrow, but he could offer solace in that shared silence. For a while, the only sounds were her sniffles and the city's murmurs until the woman finally lifted her head, her eyes red-rimmed but resolute. As the taxi rolled on, the woman took a deep breath. She looked at Ravi, her gaze sincere. I don't have my wallet," she whispered, her voice hoarse from crying. Ravi didn't respond immediately. He knew what she meant. Her pride was evident in her choice of words, preferring not to say she was broke. He understood that pride. It was the same pride that had driven him to work extra shifts to send his son to a good school. Ravi nodded slowly, his eyes conveying understanding. "Don't worry, madam," he said softly. "We'll sort it out." With that, he started the car and turned towards her destination. As the taxi sped through the city's arteries, Ravi couldn't shake off the feeling that this passenger was more than just a fare. There was an inexplicable pull, a sense of connection that transcended their shared ride. He couldn't put it into words, but he knew in his heart that this encounter was more than just another ride in Mumbai. The taxi swished past the CST station, its vintage architecture standing in stark contrast to the modern buildings they zoomed past. This station, steeped in history, seemed to whisper tales of the city's evolution. For Ravi, it was a reminder of how far Mumbai had come. When the taxi arrived at her destination, a small building tucked away on a side street, the woman's demeanor shifted. Her shoulders squared, her eyes regained their sharpness. It was as if the walls of the building had the power to transform her. As she got out of the taxi, she turned to Ravi, her gaze holding a newfound strength. "Thank you, Mr. Ravi," she said, her voice regaining its firmness. "You've helped me more than you know." Then, without another word, she stepped out of the taxi and disappeared into the shadows of the building. Left alone in the quiet of the night, Ravi looked at the closed door of the building. He knew that he wouldn't see the woman again. Yet, for some reason, he found himself thinking about her. The image of her fragile form on that park bench, the sound of her muffled sobs and the depths in her eyes when she had thanked him. It was a strange feeling, a mix of concern and intrigue that he couldn't quite understand. As the days passed, the memory of the woman faded into the background of Ravi's life. He went back to his routine, ferrying passengers and weaving through the chaotic streets of Mumbai. Yet, every now and then, he would find himself glancing at the doorways of the buildings he passed, half expecting to see her standing there. But she never appeared. He told himself it was just a case of an overactive imagination, a byproduct of too many Bollywood movies. Then, one morning, much to his surprise, Ravi's peaceful routine was shattered. Standing before him, looking every bit as composed as he remembered, was the woman from the taxi. "Ananya," she said, extending her hand, "I hope you remember me. I was in an accident last year." Ravi, taken aback, managed a nod. He couldn't believe she was standing in front of him again. "That day," Ananya continued, "I didn't realize how much I needed your help, not just with the ride, but with the kindness, the silent understanding." She paused, her gaze distant as if reliving that moment. "I haven't slept properly since then. Everyone was telling me what to do. No one asked if I was all right, except you." Her eyes met his, sincere and grateful. Before Ravi could respond, Ananya went on. "I want to give you a reward, Mr. Ravi. I owe you that much. Please accept it." She reached into her bag, pulling out a thick envelope. The sight of the envelope triggered a wave of emotions in Ravi. The taxi he drove was old, but to him it was more than a vehicle. It was his lifeline, his independence. The thought of taking money for that night, for a ride he'd done out of the goodness of his heart, was unsettling. Ananya, sensing his hesitation, pressed on. "Mr. Ravi, I insist. You deserve it. Besides, it's the least I can do to express my gratitude." Seeing the determination in her eyes, Ravi finally relented, accepting the envelope. A few days later, armed with the money from Ananya, Ravi visited a local mechanic. The garage was a hub of activity, filled with the sounds of clanging tools and the smell of engine oil. But for Ravi, the din was a symphony of hope. As the mechanic inspected his taxi, shaking his head at its well-worn parts, Ravi knew that it was more than just a vehicle. It was his pride, his partner in navigating Mumbai's unforgiving roads. He didn't drive a fancy car, but to him this taxi was a chariot carrying him in his dreams through the city's bustling streets. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the garage floor, Ravi's taxi emerged, reborn. The once faded paint gleamed, the engine purred like a contented cat, and the upholstery looked almost new. It was more than a car. It was a testament to Ravi's quiet dignity, a reflection of his years of hard work and perseverance. Stepping into the refurbished taxi, Ravi felt a surge of pride. It wasn't just a vehicle. It was a symbol of his journey through life, the bumps, the repairs, and the resilience. He knew that every mile he covered in this car was a story waiting to be told. and with a grateful smile he eased himself into the driver's seat ready to take on another night of Mumbai magic.